Crystal, welcome. So glad you could be here with us today at Crew Network.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about disruption. What's something you think is a key disruptor that's going to impact the industry?
I think one of the things right now that is a huge disruptor is just the fact what's going on with retail.
Yeah.
And the impact that that's going to have from big boxes to malls to our convenience stores.
Yes.
What does it all mean?
Yes.
The Amazon effect, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
And I think that could prove to be a huge disruptor as we go into the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's already a disruptor, right? We see it all the
Yes.
time, and it's truly consumer driven. And in commercial real estate, what will that mean for us? Will that mean that our buildings will change? Does that mean distribution and fulfillment change? Does that mean offices will change? I mean, multifamily?
I mean, that's the opportunity, right? Because think if you could figure out something to repurpose all the big box stores.
Yeah.
That could be a huge opportunity in our space.
Right, so we need to look at disruptors as opportunities and innovation as well.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. Working in a family business is very unique. What would you say has been your greatest challenge in managing and leading this company?
I was on the board from when I was 18 years old, but in December of 2008, all of a sudden it came to my attention that our family business, that was the 15th largest private company in the United States, was probably headed into bankruptcy. I was a largely stay-at-home mom at that time. I had started a hotel company. I still was somewhat involved in that. But within 3 weeks, I was CEO.
Wow.
And that was a big change
Yeah.
and a big challenge. I was very fortunate. I was surrounded by a great team. And 18 months later, we came out of bankruptcy. There's a long story around that, but we did.
I bet there is.
Hey, you would think what I just told you was the biggest challenge that I faced.
I do.
But
clearly there's something more.
But for me, that was actually intellectually stimulating. I had a direction, I had a mission, I had a goal. It's very hard for me to always be looking out, as a CEO should, what's out in the future? What are we doing? And as we discussed, disruption is all over the place.
Right.
And so, how do you figure out and be ahead of those curves?
Yeah.
And so I think the most challenging things that I face are really today in my career because of all the disruption and wanting to have a generational family business.
Convenience stores and convenience fueling could possibly be disrupted by electric cars, right?
Oh, yes.
And so, I mean, that's got to be something that's on your radar and that you're thinking, do we need to be putting in electrical stations instead of fuel?
Honestly, I don't think that's going to be what happens with electric cars. And if electric cars take off, I really think people will largely charge at home, which
Yeah.
means the fuel business could go away. Our business is, about 50-50 retail versus fuel.
Right.
And so, you got to
Right.
figure out, okay, you've got great corners. So can you utilize these corners in a different way? And I don't think it will be charging cars. I think that over a long period of time, we'll need to figure out something different to replace the fueling piece of it.
Yeah. Crystal, what advice would you give young women entering the industry?
I think the most important thing for people, not even just women, is self-confidence.
Yeah.
Number one, if you believe you can be successful and you're not confident, it just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you never make a mistake, and it doesn't mean you have a huge ego. It's how you carry yourself, it's decisions you make, it's that you believe you're in yourself.
You're right, it's not a female-male issue, but we do tend to see women coming into the workforce with perhaps a little less confidence. Is there something that women in the workforce can build confidence in themselves?
Sometimes people's confidence is just the fact they don't try something.
Yeah.
And once they try something and they see even a small thing, right?
Yeah.
Little by little, it's like, oh, I did go talk to my boss, and it was okay.
Right. Yeah.
Or
take a risk.
And then, on the counter to that, it's like, oh, I made a mistake, I did that. And guess what? I picked myself up, I learned from it, and the next time I had that decision, I made a better one.
Crystal, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.